Hey, what's going on, guys? So I got an awesome early Christmas present from my awesome wife. Forever, the laughing joke at my house is I have a cheap Harbor Freight 220 volt Chicago Electric 170 amp welder that I've always run flux core through. The feeder on it's garbage. It really doesn't like to pull 10-pound spools. And even with 1 to 2 pound spools, the feeder's so crappy on it that it's just really hard to make something, lay down a pretty bead. Has really short leads on it and just doesn't have a whole lot of selection in it. There's not a lot of capacity to it. The gas system on it looks really, just really cheap. So I never even bothered trying to hook gas up to it. I just always ran flux core through it. And I pretty much built my whole Jeep with that welder right there. And that's the second one. The first one went out about 3/4 of the way through the build, and I had the $20 replacement plan, and I went down there and got another one. That's a $200 welder. That's all it is. Now, granted, I'm not going to take anything away from it. That joker will get hot, and you can make stuff work, and you can it works. But it's not a nice welder. It really isn't. So I have been in the market for a new welder, and I've been researching them and trying to decide what I wanted. I was kind of leaning towards the 180 amp weld pack Lincoln from Lowe's or Home Depot, which is a nice welder. It's 220 volts. And then I had looked at the 190 Handler from Hobart, which is another decent welder. I really wanted a Miller 211. At my last job, we had a really nice Millermatic 252, and at school, I learned on Miller welders. And they're just nice. They really are the primo. They really are nice welders. And you get them set up, you get behind them, and they just lay it down. They're nice. The feeders on them are really nice. The guns that are on them are nice. The leads and all that stuff are nice. And I would come home and work on my Jeep, and I had that piece of junk over there, and it was frustrating. I had to fight it all the time. It would stick. It was just aggravating. So I got to researching, and it came down to this Hobart. I went to Tractor Supply, and I knew this welder, about this welder. I researched, and I really wanted this one, and I just didn't want to spend the money. My budget was about $650 to $800 on the new welder. And I'm trying to build a Jeep, trying to spend money on other things, and I decided while I was at Tractor Supply, I was going to grab the 190. It's a 220 volt welder. It comes with a regulator, really not pretty much all the stuff that this one has, except it's Christmas time and this one's on sale for $50 off, and I just could not pass it up. So this is the Hobart Handler 210 MVP. It's got some really cool features, like it'll run off a regular 110 wall voltage or 230 volts. You just unscrew a plug, swap out the ends on the main power plug from 220 plug to a 110 plug, and bam, you're switched up. So on the 110 side, it'll run up to 140 amps, and on the 230 volt side, it'll run up to 210 amps. So you have tons of versatility there as far as amperage and different power sources, which is cool. It has a die-cast feeder in them, which a lot of the welders, the decent welders in the $600 to $800 range, have a plastic feeder assembly, which I have friends that have those welders and have had them for a really long time, which is why I was looking at the Lincoln 180. I've got a buddy that's got like the 110 or 120, and they've had it forever. They've used it on their farm and whatnot, and it's a great welder, and it's got a plastic feeder. Something that I've just run across in researching and reading on the interwebs on different people's reviews and their takes on the welders was the plastic versus the die cast. I don't know if there's any argument there. If the die cast is any better than the plastic, because I have seen the plastic ones last a long time. But I went with this one. It's got die cast, and I think it looks a little bit more resilient. One cool feature about this being a 110 220 is, like, when I'm at the shop or I'm at the house in my garage or whatever, and I'm really trying to burn something in good, I can run 220 volts and not have to worry about it. This is cool, is I can switch out the wire, put some flux core back in it, and put a 110 plug on it, put it on my trailer, or take it to my buddy's house, or if I go wheeling somewhere and I know I have access to electricity, I can take my welder with me, and bam, now I'm in there for 110 volts. It's hard to find 220 volts, but 110's everywhere. So that's a really cool feature for me. And it came with a really nice gas regulator. Came with a 5-foot gas tube to go to your tank. 5 feet's kind of long because it's going to get set up on a cart right behind the welder. I'll pick up a bottle tomorrow and get all that set up and do some test welds and compare it and really talk about it then. It's got 10-foot leads, 10-foot ground lead, 10-foot gun lead, which is cool. And it's just a nice welder. I think it's a really, if you can afford to spend money and you're in that marketplace, you can't break $1,000, but you can spend $800 or you can spend $650. Look at the Hobart welders, the 190 or the MVP 210. I think you know, there's some guys that are running really nice 140 amp welders that'll weld up to a 1/4 inch plate or 5/16 plate maybe. I think you need to be with a welder. You buy a welder and you're going to be welding 1/4 inch plates. I think you need to have a welder that'll go up to 5/16 or 3/8. You need, you know, some of the really nice higher end welders, the Snap-on, the Hobart, the Millers, and all them. They can, the 140, 110s will hang in there and do that heavier stuff. But you are welding a 1/4 inch plate to a 3/8 axle tube or 1/2 inch axle tube or trusses or brackets, and you're really trying to do this thing right. Now, I don't claim to be master guru tech, you know, awesome wizard welder. There are some of you in the group, the Steve Taylors out there. Steve Taylor can tell you more about welding than I can tell you about every experience I've had in my life. That guy's that good. Me, I did it in high school, and I've always done it as a hobby, or I've had a job where I had to weld from time to time. And I've kind of, you know, from high school and on, it's been self-taught. I can put things together and it works nice. I can't lay down the show quality, you know, weld porn stuff, but I do okay. But for you guys that are getting into these 1-ton axle swaps, this is another part of this video. Buy a decent welder, okay, that's great. And some of you guys, the majority of you guys that are doing this, that are getting into 1-ton swaps and putting this under your Jeep, have an idea of basic welding concepts and have had either did it in high school or went to welding school or just have self-taught and can weld pretty good. But I have had some guys private message me up that are just like, hey man, what kind of welds do I need to do? What, you know, is there any like YouTube channels that you watch that would help me? And there is some great information. I mean, you can learn anything from YouTube these days, but I really think that you need to spend time with somebody that has a lot of experience welding, somebody that either welds for a living. I'm sure somebody in your family, one of your friends, or somebody in the Jeep Club knows how to weld. Can come in, spend some time with you, you know, buy him a 12-pack of beer or whatever, sit down, you know, weld, let him show you some stuff. And then, you know, practice for a while, let him come back and, you know, show you where you need to change, where you need to improve, or, you know, hey, those are good. I think that's really important to have an actual somebody with some experience there trying to help you. And if you don't have that, your local tech college probably has a welding course at night or during the daytime that you can go take pretty cheap, that are normally just a couple of weeks long, that'll give you a welding certificate, and you can learn a lot in those classes, especially just for burning basic brackets and stuff to axle tubes or whatnot. But you are going to be running your Jeep down the road, so buy a decent welder, buy the time, I guess, to actually learn how to do this properly. It is important that you do this right, guys, because this is that's a cool thing. But anyway, guys, I'm super excited. If you're in the market for a welder, do some research. Check out this Hobart Handler 210 MVP. It's got a ton of really cool features for under $1,000. You can't beat it. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I hope this video helps you guys out, and I'll do some more tomorrow when I get the tank on it and do some like side-by-side comparisons and stuff. All right. Anyway, thanks for your time, guys.